Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hard Time Strongman Podcast. This is 6 here with 7, training up a better class of men here. Today we're going to be hitting our medical crash course. This is not going to be the complete end-all be-all. This is just enough to get you started. We're going to be talking medical kits. But first, a little housekeeping. Just want to mention that our Patreon is up and running. Our Discord is up and running. We do have a Substack, so if you're on that, want to check it out, go ahead. It's pretty much just kind of a backup for everything, but we do appreciate you nonetheless. Links to all this are found in our link tree. With that being said,
a disclaimer.
This is gonna be fun. A disclaimer.
So
let me see if I can do my best radio voice here for this.
Oh, send it.
Following information presented is not medical advice. Hard Time Strong Men podcast cannot give you medical advice. We are not your medical providers. If you experience a medical emergency, seek professional medical care. If you ever need to respond to a medical emergency, follow all applicable laws and act within your scope of practice. And now, back to the show.
We're sorry for everything that we've done and failed to do. No, seriously though, guys, we're not your medical provider. All right, act within your scope of practice. Act in what you're able to legally and ethically do. This is our medical crash course series. This is not our deep dives. These episodes are to get you guys up to a decent standard so that you can go out and, act safely and, just try to maximize this information, maximize the skill set. Okay. So this episode is on medical kits. So before we dig into medical devices, medical equipment, medical procedures, methods of injury sustained, the whole
shebang.
I wanted to go over medical kits because guys love talking about gear, and I just wanted to throw out some ideas, maybe some concepts that you haven't considered yet, things to get you on the right track. So first to kick off on I guess kind of a new take on the IFAK. Well, everybody loves to talk about. Everyone loves to buy IFAKs, kit out IFAKs, love to throw IFAKs on their kit, and hopefully never use them. But the IFAK is your individual first aid kit. So by doctrine, when we were in the Army, we had a whole bunch of crap in there. Tourniquet, ace bandage, Israeli bandage, hemostatic dressings, NPAs, NCDs, chest seals. Did yours have the kitchen sink in it? I don't really remember.
No.
We had a lot of stuff in there. Idea being that your IFAK, your individual first aid kit, it was for you. You didn't use this equipment. You didn't use these supplies on anybody else. This was if you went down, you could perform aid on yourself. Your bike can come over and render aid to you. That was the long and short of it, right? So with this different context, talking about citizens, having to go out and do what citizens historically do, wanted to throw a different take on it. Where I got this idea from originally was a channel called European Medics on Instagram. Their handle is European_medics. Great channel, a lot of great information. And what they're putting out is this IFAK. So this is more of, you can think of it as your self-aid kit. So this is what supplies, what equipment that you need in order to perform aid on yourself if you go down as a casualty. I boil this down to essentially hemorrhage control. So if you get, if you experience a gunshot wound, a laceration, anything that is making the bright red blood flow, this is to stop that essentially. So your tourniquets, your hemostatic gauze, your run-of-the-mill sterile gauze, ace wrap, Coban, anything to apply pressure and stop the bleed. That is what I would throw in this kit. This on an individual.
Stop the bleed. Sorry,
I hate you. on individual level, you need to be able to get to this. You need to be able to reach this every time without being, without thinking. Because if you've sustained an injury, you are in an altered state of mind, right? You may have, full motor control. You may, be, fully with it, know what's going on, but you've been injured. there are physiological processes that you're not fully in control of, right? So your adrenaline's pumping. You need to be able to reach that and have it be at the same place every single time. If you're working with others, all the better. This needs to be standardized so that everyone knows where this is, right? But this is more of your self-aid kit. This way you need to be able to reach in order to work on you. In conjunction with that, think of this as a system, right? What I call the buddy first aid kit, or the BFAK, right? So in theory, this is designed for your buddy to be able to render aid to you. So outside of massive hemorrhaging, outside of hemorrhage control, this covers the rest of March. So airway, respiration, circulation, hypothermia, head injury. This covers everything. This has your chest seals, your NPAs, your NCDs, your splints, eye guards, gloves, your casualty feeder guards, warming layers, everything.
Kitchen sink.
The kitchen sink, right? This doesn't necessarily have to be reachable by the casualty, right? So if you're in a guy who rocks plague carrier, this could be on your back. If you're more on the citizen side and you have a backpack, a butt pack, something else that is going to be on you all the time, this can live in there. It's if you're working with somebody, if you are working with a buddy, they need to know where it is on your kit. More often than not, it's better to have an SOP to where this is all standardized. And something else that this can hold outside of March is pharmacology. We'll get into this a little bit more as time goes on with these crash courses and our more in-depth classes. But by pharmacology, I mean medications. So pain control, antiemetics, so anti-nausea, anti-vomiting, antibiotics, ointments. There's a whole slew of things that you can cover here. This is dependent on your imagination and your space and your budget, essentially. One other thing along with the buddy kit, so besides being able to cover a larger horizon of issues than just having your IFAK or just having one medic with one medical kit, cross-loading all of this equipment to the individual allows your medic, if you have a designated medic, to do more, to go farther, right? So say if I was in a 3-man hunter-killer team, right? Instead of overloading my one medic to be able to care for 3 individuals, right? You could have, everybody has an IFAK so they can render aid to themselves. Everybody has a buddy aid kit so that their buddies can respond to them as a casualty and cover a wider range. Now this does require everyone else to have a higher standard of training, right? But that's a different conversation. But this offloads that weight, that space, all that equipment, all that supply off of the medic that he would either have to carry, have in a vehicle, have cached, whatever. And lets him focus on the more nuanced stuff, the things that require his expertise more.
Right, like actually doing his job.
Right, instead of, oh, holy crap, I'm carrying the 70-pound pack. Like, and my buddy just went down over that ridge line. Like,
I don't think people really understand the sheer amount of weight that Doc carried out on patrol when we were in Afghanistan. Because not only did he have his own plate carrier, his own ammunition, his own equipment, his own say cold weather gear if we were going out, or sleep system or whatever, he also had to carry his medic pack, which was enough medical supplies for the entire platoon or whatever he was attached to that went out at the time. Not only that, but also water.
Well, think of it this way, right? So our IFAK, you could fit in your hand. You could hold that pouch in your hand. The medic, like, you remember Black Hawk Down when they had that casualty and he had to be with that dude for literal days.
Yeah.
So you have to think your mech needs to be able to respond to something like that. So it's not, we're not talking about an assault bike here. We're talking about a full, they probably stuffed an entire medium, a medium rucksack full of medical gear, which is not light.
No.
We're talking about
Just-
IV bags full of liquid, which is very
Right.
heavy. I mean, so a lot of
And
stuff.
like you just-
So if you're cross loading, your gauze, ace wraps, splints, things that the mech doesn't necessarily have to carry that you can put on a dude's back that he can carry himself, that's a good thing.
Right. Exactly. Because like you said, those IFAKs you can fit in the palm of your hand. But to put that into perspective, that's one dude. Multiply that by, say, 15, 20 dudes? That's what Doc's got in his bag.
Well,
not counting liquids.
And that doesn't cover everything that guy might go through. Like every injury that guy might sustain. That doesn't include
Correct.
stuff for eyes. That doesn't include stuff for burns, stuff for
Hypothermia, yeah.
hypothermia, splints,
Shock, yeah.
broken or fractured bones. Like that doesn't include any of that.
Right.
So you cross load that amongst your dudes, then say even discounting Doc having to carry stuff. What if Doc loses his pack? What if he goes down and it like bam off a cliff or into impassable terrain or whatever? What if packs or Doc's back gets shot? Or gets ripped up by
knocked off the
shrapnel,
striker.
or gets knocked off a freaking striker. I mean, there are so many, and you'll never account for every what if, right? But
Right.
this cross loads, this think of it like mesh networking, right? Self-healing, self-governing. It's it's not putting all your eggs in one basket.
This week's episode is brought to you by FieldSeats.com. FieldSeats.com is an e-commerce, federally licensed firearms dealer. They provide virtual reviews on brand new firearms, optics, and gear, where at the end of the review, they give away the item being reviewed to an attendee.
Currently, they've got reviews ranging from the Shadow Systems MR920 for $35, the Springfield M1A for $65, or Chichicon ACOG with RMR for $60. Each review has limited seating, so your chances of winning the giveaway are that much higher.
Check out FieldSeats.com to purchase your reviews and enter to win the item being reviewed, and use code STRONGMEN to get 10% off your order.
Be sure to check out their Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at field_seats for updates on products and other tips and info.
Use code STRONGMEN to receive 10% off your entire purchase at FieldSeats.com. Terms and conditions apply.
Thanks for listening, guys. Now back to the episode. Stay in the fight.
So moving away from the individual kits, going to like a vehicle first aid kit. So as you can tell, guys, we're not gonna have a fast and hard set of equipment for you guys to carry, at least not in this episode. But this is mainly just considerations that we have for you guys, something that you might not have considered, something to kind of broaden your horizon, get you a better, clearer picture of what you need to be thinking about. So vehicle first aid
Just
kit.
to make you think.
So what are you expecting? What are you projecting that you're going to have to treat
Right.
if you're in a vehicle? What's your
what
context?
methods of injury?
Right. So are you worried about gunshot wounds? Are you worried about motor vehicle accidents, blunt force trauma, lacerations, burns? This is going to determine what's prevalent in your kit. So if you're rolling around in a Toyota Hilux with all the doors ripped off in the middle of Afghanistan, I can
With the 50 cal in the back.
I have a good idea of what you're going to have in your medical kit. But
Yeah.
if you're rolling around in Madison, Wisconsin in your minivan, that medical kit's probably going to look a little different,
Yeah.
or not. I've never been to Madison, Wisconsin. I couldn't tell you that. I just threw that out there. But
Depends on if you're rolling around with Kyle Rittenhouse or not.
goodness,
Hey, man, I got to throw something in there.
well, you sure did that. So you're stateside, you're home, right? In this presumed context. So if you have a family with little ones, does your med kit have an addition of a boo-boo kit?
Yep.
Can you handle, little sprains? Can you handle, bumps and bruises?
Little ouchies.
Little ouchies. The bobos. Can you, what kind of farmer do you have? Do you have stuff that can help with headaches, nausea for long road trips? If you fall asleep or have to drive for a long way, do you have caffeine pills or coffee packets? I mean, main takeaway here is that your kit needs to fit your context, right? So for most people, your vehicle first aid kit needs to be able to handle motor vehicle accidents.
Yeah.
What does that look like? Probably doesn't look like a gunshot wound. Looks like broken bones, looks like lacerations, looks like abrasions, burns. So you're also not go for it.
I would say also that if you were traveling with a pet, you're probably going to want to have stuff for them too.
Yeah.
Whether it's their own pharma or, their own ACE wraps, whatever.
Right.
Like, you need to take that into consideration too.
Yeah, 100%. Need to think holistically. Another thing with context, you're not the end all be all. Most likely you will not be the last point of this chain of care, right? So
right,
you can probably focus on just sustaining until help arrives, or
exactly
care that you can perform until you get to higher care. So depending on where you live, depending on your context, that can change obviously, but keep that in mind. You don't have an unlimited amount of space in your vehicle, but you can carry a lot more. So
yeah,
this might look like
your main goal.
Go for it.
God, but I hate interrupting you.
You're all right, man. Go for it.
I was just gonna say with these vehicle facts, your main goal here is just to stabilize or attempt to stabilize until the paramedics get there. If you can stabilize to even beyond what they normally care for, then great. But that's your main thing, is to try and stop whatever bleeds going on, because that's going to be your main issue is in a motor vehicle accident is going to be bleeds.
Yeah. Well, something else too, and this depends on your scope of practice, right? So
yes,
a C-collar, a stretcher.
Yeah.
I mean, probably something that would be good to have is like flares or methods of marking, right? So if you're thinking about responding to a motor vehicle accident, you don't want to make more accidents. You don't want to make more casualties. So being able to, effectively cordon that off, signal, that's huge. So
Jurassic Park that thing, light that flare and just run down the road.
Get after it, man.
Right up until that T-Rex just mows you down.
Dance like nobody's watching. Especially that T-Rex that, can only see movement. Oh, almost killed him.
Thank you, Jeff Goldblum.
All right. And moving on to, your home first aid kits. Oh, actually, no. Vehicle first aid kits. Last word on that. With vehicles and homes, your space, like your weight tolerance, just went through the roof compared to what you could carry on your back, right? So talking about poor Doc with his rucksack full of medical stuff. Now think about a vehicle. Vehicle doesn't really care. Like up to a certain point, vehicle doesn't care if you have a stretcher, if you have a ton of IV bags and all this equipment in it. If you can fit it and make the space make sense, right? The weight is more often than not a non-issue there. Same thing with the home.
Negligible.
You can, for home, I would say you are, outside of daily life of, the boo-boo kits, the bumps and bruises, the little stuff, you're looking at probably more long-term care. Depending on your region, depending on where you're at, how accessible care is to you, something you may have to think of is whether or not you can even get out to higher care.
Yeah.
What is your threshold to, what you can handle at home? Going back to, falling back to the level of your training, right? Something else, being able to rotate stock, throughout the home. So you can stock up on all the time all you want. If it goes bad, it goes bad. It's not useful to you anymore, right? But your context is different at the home, right? So if you are planning on being a casualty collection point at some point in the future, or you're at least getting ready for that possibility, then that's a lot different than the guy in the country whose wife has a couple of medical conditions. So you need to make sure that you have at least a month of her medication in stock, right?
Dude.
Or, maybe the pass going into your home is, impassable during the winter. So you need to be able to handle medical issues at home, or you're going to have to sustain it until a life flight can get down to you. You have to think these things through. Going back to the farm, if you or a family member has prescribed medication that they need, then speak with your provider, figure out a way to, keep at least a month of that on hand. At least. But
Odd.
most of the time, it's not going to be that dramatic. Most of the time, it's going to be, make sure you have a bunch of Band-Aids and Neosporin. Make sure this doesn't turn into an infection. If you do have an infection, then, go and get it figured out at a hospital. But if you don't have that option, you need to be able to handle that.
I actually just sat here and I shuddered at the fact of having a freaking CCP in my home.
Yeah.
That is just thinking of the sheer amount of medical supplies you'd have to have on hand, not just for yourself, your family, but your neighbors as well. Dude.
Yeah.
If it's at a point of where you're actually a casualty collection point, dude, you're in a bad place.
Yeah.
I'm not saying geographically, I'm just saying you're in a bad way. Well, you may have to store more than what you actually probably can if you're becoming a casualty collection point.
Well, think about having to make the call on triage.
Dude,
on what you can treat and what you can't. Think about having to do that with your family or your neighbors, man. Yeah. Medical's no joke, man. It's no joke at all.
That's why I don't touch that.
Well, and the sad part is it's too important not to. You know what I mean? Because
I know.
If you have the most medical knowledge, most medical proficiency on your street, guess what you just turned into?
Yep.
During our freeze in 21, everybody on my block knows I'm a nurse. And so we were snowed for, iced in for 4 days. So, well, long story short, I had to remove sutures on a dog.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know if my neighbors really understood the correlation between me being a nurse and me not being a vet, but dog was okay. It buffed out.
Yeah, the mob takes all their freaking people to the vet anyway. So
goodness. Well, I was like, I'll never have this opportunity again. Might as well do it.
Yeah, right.
And then something else I wanted to touch on, talking about medications. Oh, well, before I plug that, do you have an AED at home? Probably not, right?
Defibrillator? No.
Yeah. How many people do?
No. Nobody.
Probably nobody.
Those things are expensive.
How prevalent is heart disease and heart failure in the United States?
Very much so. Yeah.
Yeah. Things to consider. I mean, and yeah, it's a huge investment, right? But for the one time that you would need it, right? We talk about police and don't be silly. Talking about response times, right? But what if someone has a heart attack in your home? Outside of a tactical operational sense, right?
Car battery and jumper cables can go a long way.
We have to cut that whole thing out. Idiot.
Well, you just cut that part out.
No, but something that is an option for those medications, something to consider, is called Duration Health. And you can look them up. But what the service is a provider speaks with you virtually, right? So you figure out what you want in this medical kit, whether that be antiemetics, antiparalytics, all, whatever, right? And you fill up this kit, you talk to a medical provider, talks, see if you actually need this. If you do, they sign the script, send this kit out, and you're good to go. So, an avenue to obtaining some of this stuff, because I know that otherwise it could be very difficult in order to get a backstock on this stuff for your home.
I just looked them up. They're honestly not that expensive.
No, it's not bad, honestly.
I mean, for a family and one adult and one child, $400 for medications that you would otherwise have to go to your provider for.
Right.
Talking like azithromycin for, say, pneumonia, ear infection, throat infection, something like that.
Yeah. I mean, you can get antibiotics.
Cephalexin,
I mean,
Doxy,
you can
yeah,
get all sorts of stuff. Steroids. I mean, Zofran. Like,
prednisone. Oh my God.
yeah, a bunch of stuff. Yeah, really, really cool business. Really cool people.
Oh my God. And you can even get stuff for like anaphylaxis.
Yeah.
Wow. Women's health, trap. This is nice.
Yeah. But, for people, right? And you made a really great point when we were talking about vehicle first aid kits on animals.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if you have pets, where are your pets? Your pets are at home, right? So if your pets have a medical emergency, and you care enough to treat the animal and not have to rely on like going to the vet or something, you need to have that medical equipment there. You need to know how to use it and what to use it on, right? So we're hoping soon to push more into like the homesteading space, get some content out on that. But outside of like cats and dogs, just like pets, if you have livestock, that's a huge investment. That's a huge investment in your future, in your community, and everything. And you need to be able to. That is a whole
new ball of wax.
I mean, you need to be able to protect that investment. It's a lot different than you're having a pet. A lot different than having a pet. I can attest. So
yeah, having grown up on a farm, yeah, I can 100% attest to how different it actually is.
Yeah. So, on small scale, right, having chickens or rabbits, but larger scale, having goats, having sheep, having pigs, having cows. I mean, that's a skill set you need to build up, and that's a equipment store and supply store that you need to build up too.
Well, that'll do it for us here at the Hard Time Strongman podcast. Thanks for listening to us. This has been, our medical crash course with medical kits. If you would, go ahead and jump on IG, give us a like, give us a follow, talk to us. We love communicating with you guys all the time. You can check us out on our Patreon. You can check us out on our Discord server. We would love to get into in-depth conversations with you guys on there. Check us out on Substack. Substack's an awesome resource as well. If you're into that kind of thing, there's a lot of information out there that's probably available outside of just us.
Yep. The Patreon, it has content that is nowhere else, exclusive only to our Patreon. Our Discord is our community that we're trying to build up. Get in that Discord. You're actually able to talk one-to-one to us, practically,
and others
and others that are like us, but practically anytime. And outside of the Patreon, which is its own kind of sphere, this is how we figure out what you guys need and what you guys want. Right. This is how we actually push and steer that content. So get in there, drop us a line, and let's build this thing up. We're here to train up a better class of man, and we need community to do that.
Right. At least all this can be found in our link tree on our bio on Instagram. So we are the Hard Time Strongman podcast, training up a better class of men. Stay in the fight.
Stay in the fight.